Have you ever looked at a massive change in your life and thought, hey, this is it? This is what's actually going to break me? Well, what if I told you that the very challenge you're facing right now is actually your hidden ticket to wealth? Hi, I'm Prema, and welcome to your best kept secret to success. Today, I'm going to reveal how the universe is strategically placing obstacles in your path, not to break you, but to guide you toward your greatest breakthrough. In the next hour or so here on this podcast together, we'll unlock the ancient wisdom of the sacred wealth code combined with your powerful astrological insights to transform your biggest challenges into your most valuable assets. So stay with me as we discover why testing what's testing you today is actually the universe's way of preparing you for a greater abundance, greater service, and a greater conscious leadership. But before we dive in, I want you to take a moment just to think about like what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now, or if you're not facing one right now, let's celebrate that, and that you faced recently, and just bring that into your awareness, because by the end of the episode, you'll see it in a completely different light. So let's dive into this more deeply. But I want to share a bit of a personal story here that really illustrates this. Um, a few years ago, in my business, when I had my yoga center, Yoga and Beyond, um, this center was, just a big dream of mine. And I told that story in my first episode on this podcast. But I really faced that challenge of like, can I go another day with this? Can I keep this going? Should I stay? Should I let it all close down? And I kept facing one challenge after another, even the fact of choosing, because I did choose, choosing to leave my marriage at that time. So it was sort of a compounded challenge I was going through. And the financial challenge kept getting bigger and bigger as I was going into debt. Even though I was making money, it just wasn't enough. I had too big an overhead. So that challenge that brought me to my knees, that really brought me into a dark night of my soul, was not the only challenge I've ever had. I've had many and many since. But that one really was the doorway when I finally looked at it and looked at what I was being asked to let go of. It's really challenges or initiations to the next level, because when the universe is calling you up to something else, some construct usually has to disintegrate. We usually have to let go of something, like it or not. And that's when I was able to really hear the call of let it all go, which was a huge lesson in surrender. Surrender is not giving up, it's giving yourself up to. And in doing that, I opened up to what's next. I didn't know what was next, but the sacred wealth code work and all that I'm doing now has evolved from that moment, and other challenges since. But whatever you're facing right now, just hold that, because we are going to unlock that for you. So I want to take a moment before we dive in any further and do our astrological update here. And at the end, we'll have an oracle reading, an oracle card reading from the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle deck. But I want to remind you that I do take live callers on the show. So if you want to give me a call and ask me any of your questions or deepen the subject or any subjects that I've talked about or anything really, then you can give us a call here at 1-866 451 1451. And if you're watching, that number should be on your screen, 1-866 451 1451. You can always message me at askprema@solutionary.com. And that's SOUL and solutionary. And that email is always with the show, wherever you're finding the show. And I love to take your comments, your questions, and dive deeper with you. All right, let's dive into the astrology, because there is so much going on right now. We are standing on the precipice of a huge amount of change, because we have a celestial pileup in the sign of Pisces in Vedic astrology, which is the 12th house, the natural 12th house of the zodiac, even though it's a particular house for you based on your ascendant. But the 12th house is about relinquishment. It's about letting go. It's about surrender. It's dissolving into the truth of who we are, essentially, before we sort of rebirth and start again. In that dissolution process, there's also a shadow side, which happens to be checking out, too much fantasy, illusions, delusions. So, and this is also where the eclipse pattern is, as far as the north node of the moon is also in Pisces, and we will have an eclipse there at the end of the month. We have a full moon total lunar eclipse happening in Leo at 29 degrees, like almost at the very, it's just right on the cusp, really, of Virgo and Leo in Vedic astrology. And that's happening on March 14th, could be March 13th, just depends on where you are, the time zone. You can Google that for your time zone. So I want to talk a bit about eclipses. And we'll flesh this out even more in our next episode, which will still be before this eclipse happens. We always have two eclipses. Rare occasions we have three, but there's always two. There's a new moon eclipse and a full moon eclipse. And the eclipses are usually in two signs, the two signs that are directly across from one another. They're 2 points in the ecliptics, the nodes in the uh, ecliptic of the moon. And they're not actually planets, but we treat them as they are in a sense, because they are called shadow planets or shadow grahas. And these shadow planets have the ability to block the sun, which is the soul, and block the moon, which is the consciousness. And they create storms, they create celestial storms. And these are the triggers for growth in our charts, in the heavens, but how that hits our own personal soul blueprint, our Vedic astrology chart. These triggers always activate emotions. These are really about growth and challenge and shifting timelines and making big shifts and changes, cosmic shifts, whether you like it or not. So they're always agitating certain areas of life, and in that agitation, the intention is to sort of bring things up to the surface, challenges and such, so that we deal with them, that we clear them, that we grow from them, and that we move on. Well, this particular eclipse that we're having on the 13th, 14th of the month is really activating our emotions and releasing patterns of attachment in leadership, responsibility, and some of our social connections. Where it's happening in Uttara Falguni, which is the stars, that it is the constellation within the constellation, so to speak, the nakshatra that it's happening, is a place of service and healing and really ethical leadership on many levels. And it's really supporting uh, the service to those in need to restore balance. And it really brings in an opportunity for acts of generosity, collaboration, and balanced ethical decision making. But the challenge that goes along with this, and remember, this is a shadow period of time, so it has more focus on the challenges, is power imbalances. Uh, Maybe feeling greedy or experiencing that lack of generosity at some level, even financial disputes. And we're really, again, being called to release those patterns. I want to say the shadow patterns of leadership. And that's leadership of yourself and leadership of whatever you're here to lead and whoever you are leading, whether you are the CEO or whether you're a parent, you're and everywhere in between, you're in a leadership position. So it's really a time to realign with our integrity, our sense of equanimity and fairness, and conscious leadership. The trigger that this is activating in all of us is to ask us to unearth the stuck energy, the misaligned perceptions, again, that are really keeping us in sort of a shadow side of leadership, or if you don't feel that personally for yourself, then how we're feeling that collectively. And that's definitely a big collective theme. So the intention here is to allow something to dissolve. This is happening with the south node of the moon. So this is the sun and the moon lined up with the south node of the moon on a full moon. So this is the mystic. And the mystic, representational of the south node of the moon in Vedic astrology, is here to be spiritually wealthy. And that means letting go of anything that we are attached to that's keeping us from actually walking in alignment, living in alignment, leading in alignment with our divine path, with our soul purpose, with our soul path. So that's the question you're going to want to sit with this eclipse, because it's happening in the natural fifth house of the zodiac, which is the mind, it's creativity, it's romance. So you may experience this in relationships as well. But it's happening for a particular area in your chart. So whether it is your seventh house of intimate and business relationships, whether it is your third house of sort of brothers and sisters and competition and the arts and communication, maybe it is the second house of wealth and money. So, and also that's domestic happiness and values. So, depending personally where it's hitting you is where you're personally feeling those shifts and changes, and with the sign right across from that as well, which is Pisces. And that will have an eclipse on the 29th of the month. So, this is a rock and roll month with a lot of shifts and changes. And as I said to begin with, a lot of planets piling up in Pisces. So that's across the zodiac. And in Pisces right now, we've got Venus retrograde. And Venus is our great connector. It's our great artist in the Sacred Wealth Code archetype system. And Venus we've been talking a bit about Venus over the last few weeks because it's exalted. It's very strong in this placement. It wants to connect in. And remember, connecting in, really the hierarchy is connecting with yourself first, the source of your being, whether you call that God, divine, spirit, whatever that might be. And then from the heart, we want to connect with others. And that hierarchy is really being highlighted with this Venus exaltation in asking us to how deeply can we connect, and are we connecting from a pure place? Now, I'm also noticing all my empath clients, and I have a lot of empath clients, I'm an empath myself, are feeling extra sensitized. So if you are an empath, you are likely to be feeling all the feels, and you're going to feel them more. That doesn't mean in a bad way. We've got some great aspects with Jupiter and Mercury going on here as well, creating a Saraswati yoga, really wanting us to be creative, share our wisdom, and really be in divine flow. But you're going to want to remember to be aware of what's your energy and what's not your energy, because with all of this concentration in Pisces, which is a very empathic sign, and then Venus is very empathic itself, it is just really sensitizing us in a big way. So relationships could be going under a bit of a strain during this time, although it's good for relationships in some ways. But we can be a little delusional about relationships or have over expectations of others and be very attached because we also have the north node of the moon magician here in this placement in Pisces with Venus and Mercury, and Venus is retrograde. So we're reviewing relationships. It's a time of reflecting our connectivity, and I would encourage you to really reflect your spiritual connectivity. That's incredibly important. It's also for us conscious leaders, it's time to really reevaluate your message, your teachings, what you are sharing, your knowledge. And that's for all coaches, healers, and spiritual entrepreneurs. It's a time to really reevaluate your alignment with what you're taking a stand for and how that's coming across, so that you can refine your messaging, refine your what you're offering, and really step into greater visibility. Now, during this retrograde period of time, which is going to go till I believe April 12th, yes, April 12th, will still be under review. So come mid-April, we're also going to have a Mercury retrograde, by the way, and that's going to be direct around mid-April as well. So between now and mid-April, we're in a really deeply reflective period of time with a lot of change. So what I want to invite you to do is to find center, to come back to basics. What's your soul purpose? What are you really committed to? What's your vision for the year? And really holding yourself to a higher vision while we go over some speed bumps over the next few weeks. If you are wanting to dive deeper into all of that and what that actually means for you, one of my Soul Blueprint Vedic astrology readings is a great next step for you. And I am running a special currently for that, and there's $222 discount on my readings, and with a good with a real primary focus on this eclipse pattern and the shifts that are happening and how they'll affect you for the whole year, because most of the major shifts are happening over the next couple of months. So it's a very, very impactful period of time. So it's really this once in a lifetime portal for conscious leaders who are really ready to step into that next level of, prosperity, of fulfillment, and of the impact that we're really here to make. So if you are interested in that, you'll find a link below to my website. You can send me an email at askprema@solutionary, and we'll get you all the details for that. All right. So it's going to be a rock and roll period of time. I'm going to be here to guide you through that. We'll take it one step at a time. And I do want to remind you that with all of this, there is a deep focus on aligning with creativity and authentic expression for all of us. So expect heightened intuition, creative downloads, and inspiration. You may not want to act on all those immediately, but capture those ideas, work on the back end, like, you know, uh, clarifying things, putting the ideas down, starting to work them so that by mid-April, you'll have more clarity on how you want to bring them out, whether it's writing a book, creating new content, crafting a new program. You may even re-message during this time. So it's a big, powerful time by all means. And again, stay tuned because we'll dive in deeper around that. I do a full Vedic astrology update 3 times a month on my YouTube channel. You can find that under my name, or there's a link in the show notes for that as well if you want to dive deeper with Vedic astrology. All right, so let's dive into the connection of sacred wealth and your challenges. Again, these things that these initiations, these things that we're caused to bump up against, to irritate us, to agitate us, are really, it's a backdoor to activate our gifts, to activate our higher calling, and understanding our challenge to sacred wealth blueprint. So when you are having a challenge, when you're given a challenge, you're also given the solution to that challenge. It may not come as quickly as you want, but you're also given the power to move through it. And I suspect that you, like me, have been through challenges where you've heard somebody say, or maybe your mother say, if you're given a challenge, that the divine's going to give you a way to move through it. You've got the strength to move through it. And you may have felt sometimes like I have, lying on the kitchen floor crying, like, I know I don't have the strength to move through this, but here we are today and we have moved through. So we do always have that within us. And I want to help you to understand what the gift in your challenges are. This is really a gateway to part of your sacred wealth. It's a backdoor gateway. And I am going to read the first part of the chapter that I wrote in your Sacred Wealth Code on this, because it just really perfectly sets us up for our topic today in a big way. So this is pillar 4 in your Sacred Wealth Code. Your greatest challenge is the unexpected gateway to wealth. You have superpowers, and like all superpowers, you also have challenges. When you start accessing your high value gifts, it may feel like your challenges are blocking you from fully engaging with your gifts, Or maybe your gifts are flowing beautifully, but every time you use them, your challenges show up simultaneously, like your gifts' annoying evil twins. Your challenges are not bad, they're not evil, and they're not part of some cosmic plot to stop you from achieving your wealth dreams and fulfilling your purpose. They are part of your journey. They are designed to help you grow stronger, dig in deeper, and connect with what you truly believe. Some of your challenges are soul choices. Whether you know it or not, you have chosen to engage with these obstacles in order to grow within yourself and learn what you need to know to follow the path to your purpose and live in alignment with your sacred wealth code. The challenges we choose on a soul level are healthy challenges. It's like you're a tree and your challenges are the pruning shears that trim your unnecessary branches. It may be hard at first to feel so bare and exposed, but eventually you will grow taller and stronger because of this pruning. There are also challenges we force on ourselves because we have decided not to listen to our soul's voice. They're the wrong turns we take following out of confusion, obligation, stubbornness, or just plain habit. They're the jobs we stay in too long, the relationships we hang on to even when they harm us, the patterns and programming around money and wealth that we know are damaging, but that feel too hard or painful to change. Whatever their origins, however, our self created challenges are nearly always the results of trying to run away, consciously or unconsciously, from our soul challenges. Then finally, there are the unexplainable challenges, the challenges that no one should ever have to deal with, the challenges you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. I don't know why these challenges happen, but I do know that if you can get through to the other side, you will claim your gifts along the way and move closer to your soul's neighborhood and your personal superpowers. As Bruce Lee memorably said, using no way as the way, having no limitation as limitation, or as Mary O'Malley wrote in her book of the same title, what's in the way is the way. Those are the doorways. The shadow side of your sacred wealth code. In order to get past your challenges, you have to use your greatest gifts. Your challenges are the hidden, overgrown pathways to your sacred wealth code and the intersection of purpose and prosperity where your high value gifts live. Your challenges are the grains of sand that shape the pearl, the stones in your shoes that force you to stop running and look around. And they are irritating, triggering, and sometimes downright painful, but they are part of your sacred wealth code and your soul blueprint. And although you can avoid them, you can't make them go away until you confront them fully and grow in the ways they require. If you've been avoiding your superpowers, chances are that you have also, to some degree, been avoiding your challenges. However, until you apply your gifts to them, these challenges will keep appearing in different ways until you can no longer ignore them. When you choose to engage fully in your high value gifts, you might encounter challenges rooted in your programming, cultural conditioning, and what you've been told is possible for you. You might be afraid of your gifts or think that they are too big for you to handle. Part of your task will be to break through these misconceptions in order to access your soul's path. Finally, the challenges you'll face when you really step into your superpowers and use them to the fullest of your abilities will show you the shadow side of your sacred wealth code. When this duality reveals itself, it will be your choice which aspect to step into. The light side of your sacred wealth code aligned with your soul, the shadow side aligned with your human ego, your fears, and your unresolved traumas. But here's the thing, the beautiful thing. If you find yourself in the shadow side of your wealth code, all you have to do is invite light into the shadows, and the shadows will retreat. Like the half of the moon that is dark because it's facing away from the sun, the shadow side of your wealth code is just the part of your soul purpose and prosperity that needs to be illuminated. The shadow side of your wealth code is the flip side of the coin. It's another set of tools that you can use, but these tools are destructive and disempowering instead of constructive and empowering. And when you are in the shadows of your wealth code, we may feel disconnected, stressed, unworthy, or unable to deal with the challenge at hand. When we employ the tools of the shadow side, we blame, deflect, avoid, or attack our challenges instead of embracing them. In other words, we shrink instead of grow. Our soul challenges are triggers. They're, again, like the eclipses, very much so. They are cosmic triggers that are asking us they're making us uncomfortable enough to look around, to be willing to move differently, to let go of something. So naturally, we tend to avoid our challenges. But on the other side of that fear, frustration, lack, insecurity of that challenge, is the confidence and the certainty to actually move forward, to actually move through. It is so important to realize that when you ask for expansion, when you ask for growth, at some level, you are going to face an initiation. You will face a challenge. I mean, it happens in little ways, it happens in big ways, all of the time. Maybe it's an investment that you've made. You're like, okay, this is the next thing. And then you're feeling the challenge of needing to deal with that investment that you've made. But in that, you clear some of your beliefs that are keeping you from, or the belief that's keeping you from the next level of expansion. This whole idea of sort of contraction and expansion is a natural part of life. Like our breath goes in and out, our heart beats. We're not always in expansion. There's this coming back in again, and sometimes too tightly, and we squeeze our essence and we squeeze our brilliance out. And then there's this expanse. So I want to invite you, we're going to really work with a soul challenge today because, look, you are here to lead yourself first and foremost. And you have a mission. You have something to lead. You have others to lead. And your challenges that you work through are very much connected to what you're here to serve others with. Now, you've heard probably thousands of times, your mess is your message. And I'm kind of speaking to that, but every unique challenge that you have been through, and it's unique because it's you, in that you have gleaned knowledge and wisdom so that you can walk forward in a different way, facing a similar challenge or applying that to life, to business, to leadership. And in that, you can support others. You can lead others through. You can share that way through. I want to invite you to, again, think of a challenge that you have been through. And this one, I'd like you to think of something and reflect on for a moment, something that you have actually worked through already and that you can see the blessing in, that you can actually see the blessing in the challenge. So I can see all the blessings in the challenge of my leaving my yoga center and closing it down. That gave me the bandwidth, that gave me the space, and gave me the resources to take some time to dive in and let the next level of my worth come, my work and my worth both actually come to the surface. It gave me the time to do some work, to do some clearing work, and to realign my offerings and my business. And I've gone through several iterations of that. Leaving my marriage gave me the space to reclaim who I am, and at the time, who I was at the time, instead of all the ways that I felt like I was contracting and limiting in order to fit into somebody else's perception of me. all of that led to liberation. Was it easy? No, but on the other side of it was tremendously freeing, and it also was tremendously lucrative as well, because when we free up energy, we free up energy on all levels. Have I been through lots of challenges since then? Yes. I was reflecting on a challenge as I was preparing to chat with you today. And a few years back, I don't know, guess this was in maybe 2010. And I was running my business and working with all this work. And I also was working for a personal growth company. And I was very much behind that work, and some of it had a lot to do with the masculine feminine energy work, and I'm very versed in that, and I love that side of things and that work. And the company was sort of changing over and restarting. And so I was putting in a lot of time and energy that was going to promise a financial return in the future. But it became an energetic deficit, and I realized one day that not I didn't have enough currency for my own business. And I also realized that the founder's purpose was not really aligned with mine like I thought it was as things went on and things were revealed. So I sat in that uncomfortability for a couple of weeks, and there was a community that I really, really liked, very, very loved very much. My partner at the time was involved in this community, and it just came that I had to make a break. So I called the founder. I had a very honest conversation that I totally respected the company and where they were going, but I needed to that I was not fully available for my own purpose, and I can't follow somebody else's purpose more than my own. So I resigned, and with that, there was a huge surrender I had to do of people and some of the ways I was spending my time, but it freed up so much energetic currency, and it really allowed me to take my business to the next level so that who I was serving was really in alignment with what I was here to offer. And also that it skyrocketed my income, because my income definitely started to drop because I was volunteering, so to speak, so much time now to be paid back in the future. So, we all are going through things or have gone through things. In that, what did I reclaim? I reclaimed my value. And it was surprising to me because I've always I really get my worth, but I'm always amazed at there's different layers that we're going to be presented with over time and time again on our value, on our worth, on anything that we are moving through. There's always more to it. So there was a whole different layer of my value that I reclaimed. I had sort of given part of it away that I reclaimed for myself. There's no blame. All the choices are mine. So, in that reclaiming of the value, again, I reclaimed so much energetic currency. I had the energy to pour into the projects and the things that I wanted to do for my own clients and for my own business. So, what is the blessing? What is the challenge that you can reflect on that you now see the blessing in? Because wisdom is knowledge experienced. That's okay. I see, I learned something from that, but now I'm going to apply that. That's wisdom to the future. So one of my commitments in that was not to undervalue myself or give my value away. Be in an equal energy exchange, whether that is uh, a lot of times that comes in the form of money, but it's not always in the form of money. That is in time, in resources, appreciation, however that plays out. So now that you can see that you have blessings in some of the challenges that you've been through, and there might be challenges that you don't see the blessing yet, totally understand. It will come in time. What I want to invite you to do is let's take a moment and reframe one of these obstacles. So, just so that you have a way to turn these things around, I have a lot of these practices in my Sacred Wealth Code book. I teach this and so much more in my 12-month mentorship program, Sacred Wealth Mastery. In my collective membership, we work on some of these beliefs and things. So if you have the opportunity to close your eyes, that would be great. If you're driving, please don't. If you want something to write with, that could be useful as well. But what I want to invite you to do is just take a deep breath, settle into your heart, And I'm going to ask you a few soul wisdom questions to unearth this for you. And I say unearth because yes, we are spirits, but we are living here in a physical body, and it is density, and it is made of what the earth is made of. And we are called to walk here with a foot in both worlds. And this is not an easy task. It is not an easy task whatsoever, but you're doing it. And I want to help you to do it even better. So I want to invite you to tune into the challenge that you're currently up against, whether it's small, whether it's big, doesn't matter. And bring that into your awareness, so you can even write that down. What challenge are you currently up against? And then I just want you to take a real deep breath with that. Just breathe it in and then let it go. And tuning in and telling yourself the truth. What's in this challenge for me? Like, oh, what is really in this challenge for me? What's in it for me? I wouldn't be facing this. I wouldn't be nose to nose with it if there wasn't something in it for me. As challenging as it might seem, if I did know what was in it for me, what might that be? And just let that come into your awareness. And what are the possible gifts on the other side of this challenge? So when you break through this challenge, when you surrender, when you move through to the other side and you are looking back, like you just looked back at something that you get the gift and the challenge, the blessing from that happened a while ago, what are the possible gifts on the other side of this challenge as if you're looking back at it? So we'll just take a moment and I'm just going to bring you out into your future self. We're going to go out 1 month, 2 months, 3 years. Just go all the way out as your future self and look back at this challenge. And you've got the gifts. You've embodied them. You could hold them in your hand. You're ready to walk with the wisdom of the knowledge of the blessing you got from this. What's the gift on the other side? Or what's the blessing on the other side? And what's one inspired action that you could take to support yourself? To support yourself stepping into that gift in the challenge right now. What's an inspired action you could take that would support you to speed up the process? We're just going to compress time between that future self who's on the other side and where you are now. What's an inspired action you could take so that you could step into that gift and start using it right now? And remember, inspired actions are something you can actually do. That's where you bring it down to embodiment. And I want to take a moment to also do just a little cleanup work here, okay? What are you actually afraid of when it comes to this challenge? What are you actually afraid of? Fear, false evidence appearing real. What are you afraid of? We all have fears. Are you afraid the relationship is going to, if you leave the relationship, you'll never have, the love that you think you will, that you'll lose some sum of money for, if you state your boundaries, you'll end up being alone. Being alone is like one of the core fears. It could just be afraid of the unknown. That's another core fear. And what do you think might happen if you engage with this challenge? Like, what are you afraid of will happen if you engage with this challenge? So when it comes to your fears, something just to get real with yourself is it true? Is it false evidence or is it true? If it's true, usually when a fear comes up as a response to something we really need to be afraid of in the moment, we are also given the resourcefulness of what to do. Like, okay, you're going to step off the curb and a car is coming too close. You have that shot of adrenaline and you step back on the curb, or you hold your partner or your child from doing that. But when it comes to perceived fears, we're creating it in our mind. Now, the things we want to manifest and create, we haven't got into all of that conscious creation yet, but that's also where we want to spin the story in our heads as well for what we do want instead of what we don't want. And fear is doing it for what we don't want. So it's really important to notice just yes or no, is it false or true? And if it is false, then it is not something you need to concern yourself with. You realize that you're just telling yourself a story, and this is why we want to get into inspired action. Now, one more practice you can do around this as far as the challenges you're going through right now as the gateway to your high value gifts is, again, noticing the gift on the other side. And how is that gift connected to your divine gifts, to your unique gifts? How is it connected to that? Like when I left my yoga center, like it may not sound like a very sexy gift, but I have the gift of surrender. Like I'm really strong, and I can see what needs to happen, and I can surrender. And in the true sense of, in fact, I have a whole surrender process and training I've created in my mentorship program. I can see what needs to be given up to the divine. I can't do it on my own. I have to relinquish it. I have to release it, and I have to trust that I will be shown the way. And that means living in the void for a little while. I've been asked to do it several times. It's written in my sacred wealth. It's written in my chart. It's just part of my makeup, and I help others along that path as well. We all have gifts, and our challenges bring us closer to those gifts, and they help to uncover them. So another way this is very much connected to your gifts is you can also tune in for your challenge, whatever challenge you're up against. And again, this could be a little challenge. This could be a big challenge. Little challenge, I mean like a daily challenge. And this big challenge is like those things life throws at you and you just don't know how long it's going to last and how you're going to deal with it. You can also tune into one of your, or more than one of your high value gifts, or if you know your sacred wealth code, you can really call in your archetypes because they're sort of holding all of your superpowers to support you in moving through the challenge. Because in doing that, like I really worked with my messenger, which is my ruled by Mercury in my sacred wealth code. And the messenger brings messages from the other side. I have an 8th house Mercury. There's a lot that happens from the other side, from the unknown. And in that, being willing to take the time and hear the quiet messages that were coming through, but not just hear them, but being willing to actually move on them. You might have a great gift of, problem solving or creative thinking or leadership or a way of nurturing or, that strategic ability to see what's happening underneath the scenes. You're willing to do it for someone else, but take time to actually do it for yourself with the challenge that's being presented. And because all of our challenges usually come from the shadow side of our wealth code. And that's another thing about knowing your sacred wealth code archetypes. You can take the free quiz to get one of yours or get a sacred wealth code reading. You can grab the link wherever you're watching this video or this audio. And if you look at the shadow side of your archetypes, you will see the shadow qualities, and usually your challenges will be very directly connected to them. So that might be like I was talking about the empath earlier, this element of people pleasing is a big one. So we're going to do a quick card reading today before we wrap up today. And there's so much more we can say about this subject, and we will. Okay. And I'd love to hear your questions on this or, anything you want to deepen around this. So I'm going to pull a card to close us out today. This time went very quickly, by the way. And sometimes we just have time for a one card reading, and the card just jumped out. So there we go. And it's the mystic. This is the south node of the moon. I talked about the mystic earlier with the eclipse that is coming up mid-month. And the mantra here is, I am spiritually wealthy. Now, the mystic, again, is asking us to let go. It's very much in that theme that I was talking about with surrender. The mystic has this soul desire to be a channel for transcending the material world, but we have to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to the mystic. So, this may be hitting you in an area of life or right now where you might even be thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to let go of all of that. I was talking about surrender, I was talking about this eclipse pattern and with the challenges, but instead, it's really releasing. I'm being guided to remind you, it's really releasing only what you are, what would be useful for you to release in order to walk more of your soul path. And that's the question you want to live by here. You've got to come out of the shadow if you're feeling isolated or isolating yourself, feeling like a victim at all, or stuck in fantasy. And those can all be really up during this eclipse period of time. I want to invite you. I'm just seeing that in the collective here for some of you. You got to check in. Please check in. Don't check out. So make time for meditation. It doesn't have to be an hour. I'm a long meditator, but you could take 5 minutes, okay? You need to check in. You need to put your hand on your heart regularly and take 3 breaths and tap into your intuitive guidance here. And what is it you could give up to the divine? What could you let go of and give up? Again, that would cause you to walk closer to your soul path. That's the message of the mystic today. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I love being here with you. You can also message me on subjects you would like me to address in the future. That's at Ask Prema at Solutionary. Remember, I am offering that reading special, and I would love to get together with you and do a reading with you. So you can we'll make sure that link is with you with the show here, and you could always send me an email about that as well. And if you haven't taken the quiz, do that. That's free, and you'll get one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes. I so appreciate you being here, sharing this, subscribing wherever you're listening. It really helps. And to share this around where you find this will be useful. Next week, we are going to get more into that message of surrender, of diving into the eclipse energy a little bit more. We'll be right almost at that eclipse. And how do we let go of these things? And we'll dive into that more so. All right. Well, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So much love to you. Until next time.